Nothing about this place is natural.
Hello and welcome to For the Watch. I'm your girl, Miss K. If this is your first time coming across my channel, welcome. I hope that you subscribe. Okay, this is a new channel, so most likely this is your first time coming across this channel. I do have another channel called Rewind That with Miss K, and you'll probably hear maybe a very similar introduction. Figured I'll just keep it like that, right? Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the season finale of From season 2. Okay, the episode is called Once Upon a Time. All right. And did I enjoy this season finale? I absolutely did. I am just enjoying this show, guys. Okay. Am I sorry that I haven't been able to recap the whole season? Absolutely, I am. But I'm here to talk about the season finale and give all my thoughts and share the questions that I have about the strange things that have taken place in this season 2. Okay. First, I do have to say that as much as I am enjoying and loving this show, I feel like there's just absolutely too much going on in the second season. And when I say that, I do not say that coming from a place of hate or anything like that. It's just kind of coming from a place of a little bit of confusion and just wanting more information, right? And in that instance, I do believe that I share the same sentiment as the characters in the show. So if you feel like me, then we're kind of feeling like the characters as well, which it's a credit to the writers because they're bringing us into this world, right? This strange world where these people get caught up in this town and they have this threat that comes out at night, and they found a way to make things normal as they could, right? And now there's a new threat. And that is the part that gets me because the new threat is here without us really getting a great understanding of the old threat, right? Like these creatures that come out at night and devour folks, right? They smile in your face and all the while they want to devour you. So, um, where do these creatures come from? What's the origin? Like, what is going on? How do you kill them? Yes, we did see that Boyd was able to kill one. Those little worms that Martin had transferred into his arm, he was able to cut his skin open, cut the creature's skin open, and just let it transfer into him, and it killed the creature. Okay, but unfortunately, that's it. I mean, are you just going to get up close and personal with all of these creatures? I think not. So now they have to figure out another way, right? Because look, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it was declared in this episode that the silver bullet experiment did not work. Okay. So, guys, there it is. All right. A threat that they thought they had under control as far as the creatures coming out at night. You know, they have the talisman there, they hanging in the house and everything at night. As long as they're inside their homes, they're safe, right? And you have a talisman on the door, you don't open the door for them, you're safe, okay? They had that under control. But now there's a new threat, okay? And these things can actually kill you in your dreams. And I'm not going to say anything more about that right now because I'm kind of just getting into the episode a little bit and I don't really want to. I want to just kind of recap what happened in the last episode and get into what happened in the season finale. Okay, so before I do that, there are so many questions that I have, okay, which is the confusion part. All right, so why do they target guts, right? And so we don't really see these creatures tearing apart their victims, right? But the aftermath, when we finally see the corpse on the floor or on the ground, we see that their insides, like their chest cavity and their guts and everything, it's all been dug out, right? And then we also see their mouths are kind of dug apart as well. I want to know why they go for that. I just need answers for that, right? I'm just curious. And I think it's a good type of curiosity, but I just don't want them to add on more before we know anything about just the origin of these creatures and the reason why they do the things they do. Okay. Yeah, we're getting little pieces of things in here and that they like to torture folks. They want to make them suffer and things like that. But it's like, it's not really enough for me. Okay. So the next question is, how do they know the characters' names? Like they can walk up and I don't know if it would happen in this season, but I think last season they might have said someone's name. Oh, it was over the radio. They got a hold of Jim and they said, your wife shouldn't be digging. Like she shouldn't be in the basement digging. You know what I mean? So this leaves Jim with this theory that they're being watched. Okay. Another thing is, how long have they been around? We know that Victor, who's been there longer than anyone, it's been around, those things have been around since he was there, and probably beyond that, because there was some reference to some Civil War soldiers and things of that nature. So this thing has been going on for quite some time. Okay, now, how were they created? Did I ask that question yet? How were these things created? I just want to know, are they driven by a spell, or is it like Jim's theory where it's this big governmental experiment and they just want to see how people are going to react? I think if that were the case, that would be crazy, but I'm definitely not about to discount Jim's theory. I'm not doing that because at this point, anything is freaking possible. Okay. So, I think though that these things come from a spell. Okay, I think this place is cursed, and the only way to break the curse is to break the spell, right? And so they got to figure that out. How will that happen if they don't know anything, right? And so, like I said, the characters are just as confused as we are because they're just like, we have no information. Okay. So as we get into this finale, folks, like I said, I do want to do a little bit of a recap from what's been happening on last week's episode. And maybe I might bring up something that happened in a few other episodes as well, right? But last week's episode left us with Julie, Marielle, and the jerk Randall. They were attacked by cicadas and it got into their mouths, it got into their throats, looked like it was choking them, right? And left them unresponsive. But in this episode, they let out a scream. Like when one let out a scream, they all let out a scream. And so no one knows what the heck that's about, right? And while they're screaming, you have the parents, I think Julie's parents, like, what's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? And it's like, sweetie, they don't know. Okay, this is not a medical condition. This is a supernatural situation happening. They don't know. And I do understand the frantic reactions, but they don't know. Okay. Christy, she doesn't know. She's been doing a great job, Christy. Okay. I mean, she saved Ellis's life. This girl is thebomb.com. Thank God for her, right? Okay, but anyway, guys, also in last week's episode, it was established that it wasn't safe to fall asleep. Okay, not anymore. After what happened to Paula, Boyd's like, listen, we can't go to sleep. You know, like I'm just like, how in the world is that supposed to happen? I guess you take turns and what do you watch people sleep or something like that? Because I'm like, come on, you gotta sleep. You can't be zombies, walking around. It's just not possible. Okay. But anyway, so unfortunately now it's clear that these things can get into your dreams, and whatever happens in the dream manifests in real life, right? Like we saw a dream with Kenny, and I think it was in last week's episode, where a cicada got onto his forearm. I don't know if it sucked some type of blood or if it bit him or whatever, but he woke up with the mark on his forearm. And it freaked him out because it's like, oh my gosh, I dreamt this. And when I woke up, it was actually a mark on my arm. So poor Paula, who I really don't care about because I didn't like how she treated Sarah. She died because whatever happens in her dream, it came to pass. And I felt bad for Reggie because it has to be such a traumatic, terrible ordeal to go up in there and see your mate with the insides just totally dug the freak out. Okay. And he was just like, help me, help me, help me. Okay. So we got that established from last week, right? Now, also our new friend Elgin, who is like a prophetic dreamer, he comes to Boyd and the crew and he tells them, listen, I finally remember that dream that I had. Because I think Tabitha said something about being pregnant or something like that. And it made him remember, like, oh, I remember my dream. And he was like, I saw this little boy in white. And he kept saying this phrase. And the phrase goes, they touch, they break, they steal. No one here is free. Here they come for three, unless you stop the melody. So by this time, we've been hearing this terrifying nursery rhyme in the last few episodes, okay, guys? And we first hear it during a phone call to Kenny's house, which of course he didn't understand it, right? But he knew it was something creepy, all right? Anyway, so the bus driver, I think her name was Badska. I don't want to screw up her name, guys. I'm sorry. I don't remember her name. Okay, but the bus driver, she lets everyone else know that she knows this nursery rhyme. She said, well, they keep calling it a phrase, but she establishes that it's an old nursery rhyme. So there we go again, right? Her saying that it's an old nursery rhyme brings me back to another question. Okay, what's the origin of this nursery rhyme? What's the meaning of it? You know? Because to be honest, in real life, nursery rhymes do have some pretty dark origins. Okay. So if that's the case, this should have a dark origin, right? Okay, so now that we have all that out of the way, let's get into the episode. Okay, so we have Jade who is confirming everything that I said about the confusion, right? He tells Boyd that the problem is that there's too much we don't know, okay? And throughout this season, guys, we've witnessed Jade just racking his brain about the symbols he's been seeing and what they mean, right? He just doesn't know, right? But anyway, guys, Jade goes on to say that if they can get at least two pieces that connect, then they'd have a start, right? And, of course, Boyd is probably listening like, yeah, you might be on to something, but you're still not on to anything. Which is unfortunate, right? Next, Donna, Elgin, and the guy who stabbed Ellis go out to the woods to look for Randall. And guys, look, you just gotta admire the heart of these people, like especially Donna and Fatima, because they really care about people, all right? Because I would be one of the people to say, leave Randall out there, okay, to rot, okay? Because the way he's been acting, I was truly hoping that he would die because he has been nothing but trouble since they arrived, all right? But anyway, in this scene, we also find out that the silver bullets don't work, which I pretty much mentioned earlier. They also find out that Randall is not dead because, see, they think that they're coming to pick up his corpse so that he doesn't rot. See how nice they were being? They didn't want him to rot out there because they just thought for certain that he got devoured. And that's another question. Why didn't he get devoured? These things are doing new things, right? So that's another thing, okay? More questions. So did he not get devoured? He was out there with the people, they left him, they drove off, he was out there with them, right? Why didn't they devour him? Like he was paralyzed, I wouldn't say paralyzed like that, but you know what I mean. He's stuck in the same place. The cicadas got onto him and got inside of him, and he was just there. It was an easy kill. The creatures could have just came and devoured him. So what's up with that? Like, I mean, so to me, it clearly has nothing to do with eating and like fulfilling their hunger or anything like that. And I'm starting to believe that it's more about just making the people suffer, right? And so I guess if he's suffering right there, then just leave him there. It's no big deal, right? Just like what they did to that other girl and her boyfriend. They took her out into the woods. They took them out into the woods and they made her watch them tear him up. And they took like this long nail or rod and they stuck it through her head and pinned her to the tree. And I'm just like, What is going on with these creatures? Like, since when do they do things like this? So, once again, there's a lot of new things happening with these creatures. And I guess we're learning more about them, but we still don't know anything about them. It's very irking to me. Okay. Next, Boyd takes Sarah out to the woods to see if she can help with understanding the nursery rhyme. All right. She tells Boyd that she can hear the music and she can hear them screaming. All right. She hears voices. She can also hear the nursery rhyme. And it causes her nose to bleed, guys. And not to mention, she's screaming, and this clearly hurts her head. Okay. Now, she finally tells Boyd that Julie and the others are dying, and to save them, he needs to make the music stop. Now, of course, Boyd is like, how in the world do I do that? And Sarah, unfortunately, does not know how to answer this question. Okay. Now let's go over to Fatima and Ellis, who, in the midst of all this hell and uncertainty, they are going to get married today. Okay. And I'm like, good for them. You know, you might as well create a good memory instead of waiting around to die. Okay. So now Donna has to go find Boyd in the chapel and she tells him that his son is getting married. Okay. But before she gets there, Boyd was expressing his anger to God in a way that I did not appreciate. Okay. Being angry at God is one thing, but he was cursing at God. Okay. But I will say this, like, I understand his anger because he feels like he's being misled by God. Like, why make me feel like I can be the hero of these people when all I am is a dummy who keeps screwing things up and I'm getting people deleted? So he's feeling really downcast and he's beating himself up at this point. You know, once again, the one thing that I could say about this town is that there are a lot of good-hearted people here. And a part of me, as I'm saying this now, makes me wonder, are these good people targeted? You know, because when they passed by the infamous tree, do they feel this spirit of goodness and then they make the spell fall on them? Like, don't get me to guessing now, okay? Because I will be up in here guessing because I'm just so confused, okay? But anyway, neither here nor there. Boyd is going through it, and that's just the bottom line. But I wish that he wasn't cursing God out. That's all I'm saying. You know, he brings up Father Khatri, I think that's his name, right? Khatri. He brings him up and how, you know, he had faith till his dying breath. And he's like, he prayed before he even died, but I'm not coming here to pray. Okay. But anyway, so I'm going to leave that alone. I do feel for Boyd and I'll leave it at that. Okay. So now he finally does get to the wedding. And I thought that it was absolutely wonderful that he walked Fatima down the aisle. I thought that was very sweet. Of course, she doesn't have her father there. And this is going to be her father in law. And she's like, you know, you can walk me down the aisle. It's not much of an aisle, but you can walk me down. She, you know, if you could do me the honors and everything. So he does that. And, you know, during the ceremony, while they exchange these beautiful vows, something turns the light bulb on for Boyd. Okay. So it was during Ellis's turn when he was citing his vows. He was saying something about the light in dark places, right? That comment. And that was the thing that did it, turned on the light bulb for Boyd. So now Boyd has to hurry out of the ceremony and he goes back into the woods with a torch. But before we get there, guys, I cannot forget to talk about Jade and Tabitha, who are also on their own missions to save the town. All right. So after talking to Dead Tom and getting some sound advice from him, Jade goes out into the woods and into the tunnels to find out what the symbols mean. All right. And by the way, guys, Jade didn't even flinch when he saw Dead Tom because at this point, seeing things has become a norm to him. All right. So Tom was like, "Are you going to ask me if I'm real?" And he said, "Yeah, well, I figure you're just pretty much in my imagination and you'll go away. You'll just disappear on your own." He didn't say that verbatim, but you guys get the point, right? So anyway, I definitely enjoy the advice coming from Dead Tom. And I'm glad he came back because I was pretty upset when he died. You know, he's the town bartender and he's not a bad guy. So, but anyway, him coming back was pretty cool. So anyway, guys, his good advice leads Jade to go down to that tunnel, okay? Which, oh my gosh, these people are so brave. And I admire them for everything that they're doing because I'm not doing any of these things on my own, okay? Which brings me to Tabitha, okay? She has decided that she's going to go on her own journey to find the tower with Victor's help, of course, right? She believes that she's supposed to save the creepy children that she keeps seeing. And if she saves them, that might possibly save her daughter. Okay, guys, and we definitely will get back to that. All right, next, Sarah asked Boyd if he buried Paula yet. And part of me feels like she was just offering to help, but another part of me wonders if not burying Paula would turn into some type of Night of the Living Dead situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much we don't know, which means that there's so much that we can't discount, right? We can't just assume that certain things are not going to happen because at this point, any freaking thing can happen, right? Which is, before I move on, while we're on the subject of Sarah, me saying anything can happen, right? It reminds me of how annoyed I was with how folks were treating Sarah. Now, Jim and Tabitha, I totally understand. Treating her with disdain, I get it because she almost deleted their son. She tried to, right? And Kenny, I understand as well. Boyd tried to explain that there's something going on with Sarah. She was hearing voices and things of that nature, but Kenny wasn't trying to hear it because she left the door open, which caused his father to be devoured by those things. All right. So, yes, do I get it? Yes. But I would love if they could get that it's very possible for her to be hearing voices and for these voices to be telling her to do things that are bad. You know what I mean? But, at the end of the day, I feel like it's definitely going to turn around for Sarah. You saw that Kenny, he was very mean to her and things of that nature, but um, there was a turnaround, so that was good. So I don't think that she's going to stay in the doghouse, but I just wanted to mention that whole thing with her asking if he buried Paula yet, because we know that Boyd had so much going on, right? And so I feel like for the most part it was just her trying to help, but a part of me also wants to consider that something could possibly happen if folks are not buried. I don't know, guys, just saying. Okay. So anyway, guys, back to Boyd, who goes back into the woods with a torch, right? But on his way to the unseen site where the music box can't be seen, Reggie shows up and tells Boyd that he's always liked him, but it's his fault what happened to Paula because he brought that thing back to town with him. So then he aims the gun at Boyd and he shoots him in the arm. So unfortunately, Boyd had to delete him, okay, guys? Now, after this, Boyd moves on to the unseen site and lights up the torch, which automatically puts him into this dungeon like area where Marielle, Julie, and Randall are chained to a wall. So when he sees Julie, he's like talking to her and he's like, Julie, I'm going to get you out of here. Okay. Her in particular. He doesn't say anything to Marielle or to Randall. Okay. He doesn't know them. He doesn't have a connection with them, but Julie, he does. Okay. And he's like, I'm going to get you out of here right now. Okay. So literally, as he's getting ready to smash the music box, his dead wife shows up. And of course, guys, this is a distraction. All right. It is totally clear that she's there to confuse Boyd into thinking that destroying the box won't change their suffering and they're just going to die anyway. Like if they don't die today, they're going to die tomorrow. Okay. And she tells him that they're all going to die screaming. And that's when we hear Randall, Marielle, and Julie just screaming one by one. And we see them start to scream in the dungeon, but then we also see them screaming wherever they are back in town. Okay. And of course, this is freaking their loved ones out. All right. So, anyway, guys, Boyd ultimately makes the right choice after seeing his wife's appearance for what it was, okay? A distraction. All right. So he burns and smashes the music box, and Randall, Julie, and Marielle wake up. And the chirping from the cicadas stop and everything, okay? So all seems well, right? And it's Boyd to the rescue again. I'm totally here for it, okay? But we cannot forget about our girl Tabitha, who has gone on this crazy, scary mission. Now, before I say what I'm going to say about Tabitha, before she went on this mission, she asked her husband, Jim, like, I need you to give me permission to do this. Okay, I can't stay here and wait for the best or hope for the best. I think that I need to go and see what's out there. You know, I need to find that tower. I think I'm going to be able to save these kids and then we can save everybody, right? And so he's like, what's so different? And she's like, I don't know, it's just different, so anyway, guys, long story short, Jim says to her, Victor's mom went out there and she never came back. What if that happens to you? And when she gets to the tower, guys, and when she gets to the top, the boy in all white appears and says, I'm sorry, I really am. This is the only way. And he freaking pushes her out of the freaking tower window, guys. Okay. And I'm like, oh my goodness, is he serious? Is this little boy evil? That's one of the first thoughts, right? But then she wakes up in a hospital bed, and this hospital is called St. Anthony's. And this is a total nightmare, guys. All right. The doctor tells her that she was found 3 days ago in the woods by hikers on a trail. And I'm saying that this is a total nightmare because she is now away from her family. She did not wake up in the woods close to town or by one of those trees where she could just, jump back in and, but unfortunately with the tree though, Victor's let it be known that I think Victor and Sarah let it be known that if you get into one of those trees, you don't really know exactly where you're going to go. But that one tree that Victor brought her to was definitely the tree that leads to the tower. Okay. So anyway, guys, like I said, this is a nightmare for her. This is not what she wanted. She did not want to end up outside of that town, which they were all trapped in, away from her family. Okay. Like that's terrible. Probably some people might think, oh, this is good news. It's not good news. She doesn't want to be away from her family. Like if you're going to be in a hellish situation, at least you would be there with the people that you love, right? Now she's away from them and they're in a horrible place. So she's got her husband and her children are there, and no one knows what's going to go on. On top of that, she doesn't know that her daughter Julie is okay. So this is just a bad situation that she's waking up to. Okay. She's looking out the window. The lady is saying, do you remember what happened? She's like, no. And that's not her answering saying that she doesn't remember. I believe she does remember. And she is just seeing that this is not what was supposed to happen. This is not how it was supposed to go. Okay. And so the question is, did the little boy push her to help her? He says, I'm sorry, I really am. This is the only way. Was he trying to help her? I think he was, but that fall coming, falling off of a tower like that, there had to have been something magical, right? Supernatural or whatever that cushioned her fall. Okay. Because come on now. But coming from that high up, maybe the boy knew that if he pushed her out of the tower, she was definitely going to fall outside of the perimeter of the trapped town. That's the only thing that I could think of, right? So now my next question is, will people believe Tabitha? Will they believe her that there's this mysterious, horrific town that trapped people there? The only way that somebody's going to believe her is if they were there also and they got out. Because if if Tabitha got out, that means that other people could have possibly been there and got out as well. All right. So definitely Victor's mom didn't make it out because he said that he found her body like next to the tree. She never made it into the tree or anything like that. So guys, it's just a lot of questions. But you know what, guys, to end the finale like this is very irking for me, but it still makes for good TV. So I understand it. My issue is that I have to wait. We have to wait. I don't want to wait. I want to know. It's moments like these that make me feel like, you know what, I wish I would just wait until the series just piles up and it's done and over with, and then I get there and I just binge watch, you know what I mean? Because this is so binge worthy. It's not even funny, and it's like it's amazing. Okay. Now, the last question that I have is, did Boyd follow the dog that showed up? Because the dog shows up and he's barking, roo, 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 and then he runs away. So it seems like he wants to show Boyd something. Did Boyd follow him? And if he did, what did he find? And please be something freaking helpful, okay? But that's all for today. That is my recap and review of From Season 2, Episode 10, the finale. Whew, and what a finale it was. Okay? I hope that Tabitha could make it back home to her family. But I don't know. And I just need answers at this point. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Nothing about this place is familiar. There's a difference.